I mean, that's scary. That's really scary stuff. So I think that God may have allowed this as a final gathering of his people before he gathers his people for the final time. Well, let's round a corner, because that was not the original prophecy update for today. Obviously, I had to update the prophecy update as of yesterday. But I had another prophecy update that I wanted to talk about as it relates to Bible prophecy. And I guess there's probably no better way to introduce it than to say, Happy Purim. Pur what? What is Purim? I don't have Purim on my calendar. Well, God does. And it happens to fall on February 28th this year. Now, what is Purim? Purim is a celebration of God's deliverance of his people, Israel, from the hands of Iran. Not called Iran then, called Persia then, by their ancient name. But God delivered them, his people, from Iran, who desired to, by one Haman, to annihilate and exterminate and eliminate the Jews from the face of the earth. And God miraculously delivered them from Iran, and that's what the Feast of Purim is. Back at the beginning of this month, Joel Rosenberg sent out this call to pastors. This Purim, please consider preaching on the modern day lessons of the book of Esther. I'm sure some of you are familiar. I hope most, if not all of you, are familiar with the story of Esther and the book of Esther in the Bible. It is a fascinating book. Did you know that the name God is not once mentioned in the book of Esther? But yet, he's all over the place. You see his fingerprints all over the place in the book of Esther and how he miraculously delivered his people. Joel Rosenberg says, this is not the first time in history when the Jewish people have been threatened with annihilation from Persian, Iranian leaders who hated them without cause. The book of Esther tells the story of how two heroic believers, Mordecai and Esther, prayed and fasted and encouraged others to do the same. In response to those faithful prayers, the Lord intervened in a dramatic and powerful way. The evil prime minister of Iran, Haman, was removed from power and hanged. The heart of the supreme leader of Iran, King Ahasuerus, was miraculously changed. The Jews did have to fight, but they were saved from destruction, and scores of Iranians converted and became true followers of the God of Israel. This year, the holiday of Purim, commemorating these events, falls on Sunday, February 28th. If you are a pastor or Bible teacher, may I ask you to prayerfully consider preaching and teaching on the book of Esther that Sunday. May I ask you to help followers of Jesus Christ remember how the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob saved the Jewish people from Iran once in history, and how he will do so again if his people will pray and fast as never before, which is what Esther did. She sent word through Mordecai to have all of the Jews pray and fast so that she would approach the king uninvited, which could be the death penalty to approach. I was thinking about the book of Esther. Vashti was, asked to come and didn't, and then subsequently Esther was not asked to come but did. There's some interesting parallels. The book of Esther is rich in typology, rich in how it applies to our lives. But be that as it may, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, pun intended, to see the parallels between Iran's threat to Israel then and Iran's threat to Israel today. Now, it's vital that we understand that from the beginning of man's history, Satan has demonically possessed men to destroy God's people. Just like with the rapture being found in the book of Genesis, you find the annihilation of God's chosen people, the seed from which the Messiah would come, starting with Cain and Abel. Satan possessed Cain to kill Abel because Cain, see, Satan's not all-knowing. It was thought that perhaps the seed from the woman would come from Abel. Well, it didn't come from Abel, it came from Seth. See? Now, all throughout history, you can trace it, you can track it all through the Old Testament to the present. Fast forward to Pharaoh. Take the firstborn son, have him cast into the Nile River to his certain death. Enter a deliverer, Moses. Fast forward even further than that to the New Testament. Herod kills all of the newborn male Jews, and enter Jesus, the deliverer, the greater than Moses, whom Moses pictures. And then you go to the last century and you have Hitler, demon-possessed. Ahmadinejad, today, demon-possessed. Now, please know that when I talk about, these men being demon-possessed, I'm not trying to be sensational here. I mean, this is the reality of what... In fact, have you ever thought about this? Shouldn't the fact that from the beginning of history, Satan wanting to destroy Israel, shouldn't that validate that they are God's chosen people? Aren't you glad that it wasn't the Japanese or the Chinese or the Arabs? It was the Jews. Now, if this validates that the Jews are God's chosen people, then that means that there's a chosen people, and then that means that there's a God. So if someone says, well, how do you know if it's real? Well, my answer is Israel is real. No, that's not a scriptural answer. No, you want to know... There was a lot of trauma yesterday, that's why. It took its effect, it took its toll. You want to know God's real? Look at Israel. You want to know God's real? Look at Israel. That's how you know God's real. See, I believe that like Adolf Hitler, Ahmadinejad is demon-possessed, and it's evidenced by his plan to exterminate Israel and wipe her off the map. Now, let me say it this way. Because Satan is not omniscient, in other words, all-knowing, he's always had to have a man and a plan in place. Same plan, different man. Whether it's Cain, or Pharaoh, or Herod, or Hitler, or Ahmadinejad, or whoever. Same plan, different man. Again, Joel Rosenberg of Adolf Hitler and Ahmadinejad says, make no mistake, if the world does nothing to stop him, and Ahmadinejad really acquires nuclear warheads and can attach them to the high-speed ballistic missiles they already have, Ahmadinejad will be able to do in about 6 minutes what Adolf Hitler took 6 years to do. And that is to kill 6 million Jews, which, by the way, that's just about how many Jews there are in Israel today. And they have all been targeted by the radical Shia Islamic regime in Iran. Enter Purim. And that, I believe, is why Purim can have an application to us today. I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to ask a question. Why does Satan want to annihilate the Jewish people? I mean, what would he accomplish were he to actually succeed? Again, here's the why behind the what. We know that Israel has been the target of demon-possessed men who have been satanically inspired to wipe them off the map. But why?